And welcome to the Laconic Mnemonic first podcast. I am your host, Kyle Hartwick. I am joined here with Thomas Jones. Thomas, how's the St. Louis life?
It's not too bad. Just started college and all that, so getting used to it, but it's pretty fun. Good
Good deal.
experience.
Good deal. I'm sure you're playing a lot of video games still down there.
Yeah, pretty much.
For those of
I
you who
know.
don't know, Thomas is our video game in-house expert. He is a PlayStation level of like 13 or something like that. It's insane. And he doesn't have any platinums yet, so we got to get him to get his first platinum so he can write about it. I'm also joined here with co-founder of Laconic Mnemonic, Colten Parchert. How's it going, Colten?
It's going all right, man. I'm just hanging out here in sunny Taylor Ridge, Illinois. It's like
Yeah,
really, really, really cold, and I hate it, and I wish I were anywhere else.
I'm glad you wish you were anywhere else than in my basement, which is where you are.
You know what,
Um,
though? I do love it. I love it here.
so for those of you who are listening, we're going to talk about mostly video games in this podcast. We're just going to kind of talk about games that have come out since the PlayStation 4, Xbox One were released. We're going to talk about our favorite games, like our game of the year for 2015, which, in case you missed it, was Witcher, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We're going to kind of talk about our biggest disappointments because there were a lot of disappointments throughout the year. We'll talk about first-person shooters and how we're not the biggest fans of where that kind of schematic is going. We're going to answer a question that we got, a single question. It's a good start. Talk about some future game releases, and then we'll send you back to whatever you were doing before you started listening to this. So we'll start out with pre-2015 next-gen favorites. Thomas, I know you play a lot of games. Is there anything for next gen before 2015 that you just absolutely fell in love with?
Um, yeah, I've liked a lot of games. Honestly, I don't remember when Shadow of Mordor came out. Was that pre-15?
I believe that was August of 2014, if I remember
Okay,
correctly.
well, and I don't remember 100%, but if that was the case, probably that one. I love that game. Big Lord of the Rings fan as it is, so it was really cool to kind of see that time period and what went on there. But yeah, that was probably my favorite pre 2015 game that came out. Mechanics were really well. Um, Gameplay was fun. Upgrades and all that sort of stuff. It was a good game all around. I really enjoyed it.
For sure, that's actually one of my favorites as well. I'm really, really close to the platinum on that. I was hoping to have it so I could do a platinum diaries, but the last five trophies I have left are nearly impossible. So that's not looking too promising right now.
Yeah.
Colton, you also played Shadow of Mordor, correct? I know you weren't going for a platinum, but you beat the game. What did you think of that?
Oh, I really loved it. It was, I've grown up. I was never too big of a fan of Lord of the Rings. I still haven't seen the movies, and that's kind of a cardinal sin, I guess. I'm planning on reading the books, planning on watching the movies. I have the trilogy on Blu-ray, but as for Shadow of Mordor, it I really loved it. I thought it was a great game. Um, the Nemesis system thing, all that stuff, that was really cool. It I don't think there's any like difficulty levels on it, so it just kind of depends on how used to the gameplay that you are. But I thought it was pretty. I don't want to say it was too easy, but it wasn't really all that difficult. I didn't find it to be that difficult. What about you?
I completely agree. I found myself I beat the story. I beat it 100%. And like I said, I'm five trophies short of a platinum, and I've only put I think 23 hours into the game. So it was really easy to just run around killing stuff, and whatever happens, you can basically escape any fight that gets out of hand. I think I only died like three or four times. One negative thing I have to say about the game, because there are a lot of positives, and you guys are hitting on a lot of good points, but one negative thing was that um, it was short, really really short, and then I feel like the story wasn't the best. Like there was some there, but I wasn't. enamored with the story. Thomas, I know you were a big Lord of the Rings fan. I'm not going to ask Colton because he hasn't seen any of the movies or read the books. Um, but I know I was disappointed with the story. How did you feel about it?
I mean, as far as it being short, yeah, for sure. It was a pretty quick playthrough, so that was kind of a bummer. But the thing I liked about it is I believe it was supposed to be between the time periods, or like before The Hobbit, which was cool because it brought up Celebrimbor and like how the ring was made and how all that sort of stuff happened, which I like. Um, because I believe that game actually was based on like it wasn't based on the book, but the time periods before Lord of the Rings and all that sort of stuff. There's stuff kind of halfway written about it, I guess, that I've learned about. And what's really cool is it brought in those characters and kind of showed you what happens before everything else that's ever been put out. So that was kind of the reason. But yeah, as far as the story goes, playing it really short, which is kind of a bummer. And yeah, difficulty wasn't too bad unless you lost to the same guy like 20 times and it got kind of hard. But yeah, pretty much the time period for me, which is why it was really cool.
Yeah, and I am going to correct you just for a second because it was between The Hobbit and the trilogy. It was in the time between. Because there's the whole Gollum story arc where he had lost the ring and he actually mentioned Baggins's, so I would put it between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Sorry to nitpick there, but yeah, it was based off of the other. There's so much lore out there with that series, so there was a lot of characters that you weren't able to see in The Hobbit and in The Lord of the Rings that were present in that story. It was really cool, and we had a made-up ranger, which is awesome. Moving on to our next pre-2015 favorites, Colton, did you have one that you particularly cared for other than Shadow of Mordor?
Yeah, and again, I know you said Shadow of Mordor was maybe August 2014. I don't exactly remember when this one came out, but it was a remaster from a PS3 game, so I'm going to count it anyway. And I think you know where I'm going with this, but it was The Last of Us. And that was a fantastic game on its own, but the remaster for PS4 just made it look so much better. And the Left Behind DLC, I didn't really get into that too much, so I don't really care to talk about that, but just the game on its own. One of my favorite storylines, it was a linear game, you know, I'm big into open world, but yeah, I just think that was a really solid game, even though it was a remaster.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Unfortunately, I still haven't finished The Last of Us, which is kind of my cardinal sin of gaming because everyone tells me it's so awesome. But like you said, it's a linear game, and I am huge on open world games, so it's kind of hard for me to get into a linear game like that. Thomas, I'm sure you played The Last of Us. What did you think of that game, especially the remaster?
That game is probably tied for like second or third of my all-time favorites. So it's way, way up there. Yeah, the story's awesome. A big thing I liked about it too, I don't know if either of you guys did it at all, was the multiplayer. It was super fun, I thought. A little slower pace, but I like that, especially since a lot of stuff is fast-paced nowadays. That was one of my favorite points about it too, along with this awesome storyline and stuff. The multiplayer was really fun. Me and my brother did that a ton. Yeah, and all around mechanics of the game were awesome. I liked the progression you saw on the story standpoint from the characters, kind of how they evolved over the series and stuff, which is, or not the series, over the game, which is really cool to see kind of the bonds and stuff that they made. So, yeah, way up there for me. That game's awesome. If you haven't checked it out, definitely do so. It's awesome.
For sure, for sure. Um, I notice when I'm playing the game that it is just a beautiful game. Both of you played it on PS3, I'm pretty sure. Could you definitely tell the difference between the PS3 and the PS4 version? And we'll start with Colton on that.
I think so. But then again, I'm pretty sure that when I was playing on PS3, I had a 720p TV, and then when I got my PS4, I graduated to 1080. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went. It was a while ago, but yeah, I think you could tell. And one of my favorite scenes in the game was the giraffe scene, where they're, I don't know if, have you got to that yet, Kyle?
No, but
Yeah.
you can go ahead and say it. I'm not going to get too
Well,
far.
it's not like a huge spoiler, but they get into the city and there's just a big open area and there's just giraffes walking around and it seems kind of out of place, but it's just really cool and it looks beautiful. Like the rest of the game, everything there, like the winter scenes later on in the game where you play as Ellie, those are all awesome too.
Awesome. What about you, Thomas? How'd you feel about it?
I actually didn't play it for PS4. I mean, I've watched people play it, and you can tell a little bit, but yeah, I only played it for PlayStation 3, and unfortunately have not picked it up since I got my PS4. So,
Fair enough. That was actually a free game for me in my PS4 bundle. I got shortly after the launch. It was The Last of Us and GTA bundle for $400, and I was blown away with that bundle because it was two of the best games been out for that platform at that time frame, and they were selling it for what the PS4 was going for initially. So I was really impressed with that. Haven't finished the story yet, unfortunately. I have beat GTA 5 times though, so you can take that for what it is. My favorite pre-2015 game is actually a game that I'm playing through for a second time in hopes to get a platinum. That's Far Cry 4, which is kind of surprising because of how much I kind of loathe FPS games. It didn't feel like an FPS game to me. It felt very natural. It was an open world, like I said, so you can kind of walk up to any outpost and start shooting guys and capture the outpost or whatever. But it wasn't a run and gun game. You couldn't just go into an outpost, which is where all the bad guys were. You had to clear them out. Couldn't just run in there and start shooting around unless you were on like an elephant or something. It was a very tactical game where you had to basically scope people out, snipe them from a distance, knock out some alarms so the reinforcements wouldn't come through. Thomas, you played that game, right? How did you feel about it, just overall?
I thought it was really good. I've played Far Cry 3 and 4. Both of them are really well, though I do like 3 a little bit better, kind of the location and stuff in the area, but 4 was definitely done very well. The mountain stuff and the gliding you get into, that was probably my favorite part. You get that really quick in the game, fun way to travel, and just the scenery in that game is done really well. And like you said too, it doesn't feel like a first-person shooter. It definitely flows nice, and the mechanics are done really well and all of that. So yeah, really, really well done game. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, especially with the bows. I loved using the bows because once you got a bow and a flaming arrow, you're basically unstoppable. Like it was over. Colton, you also played that. I'm pretty sure you beat it too.
Yeah,
How did you like it?
I liked it. It was the first Far Cry game I've ever played. I never played Far Cry 3, or I honestly don't even know what the storylines are for the first two. I've never even heard of them. As far as I know, that series started with Far Cry 3. Uh, but yeah, I played it. I really liked it. I thought one of the most genius things in gaming was uh, at the very beginning when you get kidnapped by Pagan Min. He's at you're at a dinner table with him, and he tells you to wait there. And if you actually wait there for like 15 minutes, he'll come back and you'll beat the game right there. It's so genius. I don't think it's ever been done before. And my first playthrough, I did it, and it was just so damn cool.
I completely agree. Like, I don't know how the first person kind of like found that. I don't know if they were just like exploring the scenery of where they were at, because there was a beautiful like overlook at the very beginning. So then maybe they were just taking some screenshots or whatever, and then Pagan Min comes back and he takes you to Lakshmana and whatever, and then the game's over. So it
Did
was
you
a very
actually do that?
Oh, I did it like 3 times. Yeah, I did it. I did it for PC as well. I had it for PC briefly. But yeah, it was a really cool addition. And also, Pagan Min was voiced by the main character in a game we mentioned previously, Joel from The Last of Us. Has the same voice as Pagan Min, that's kind of cool. He was a really good voice actor.
I
Um,
think his name's Troy Baker, so shout out to him.
yeah, shout out to Troy Baker. That's the first of what will hopefully be a few shout outs on this, because I like shouting people out. Um, do you guys, either of you, have any other games you want to mention? Thomas, I'll start with you.
Um, Not really, not that I can think of at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing from my
I
end.
know. I know it's kind of hard, like kind of thinking what games were out before 2015. Colton, do you have any other additions?
Tomb Raider.
Tomb
Tomb
Raider,
Raider
yeah.
was it was another remaster because that was a previous gen game. So I'm also pretty sure the definitive edition came out pre 2015, but I could be wrong. It was I was really surprised because I just picked this game up like 3 weeks ago, and I played through it, and it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. So I can't even imagine what it looked like on PS3, you know. But the one thing that really upset me about it, and this is probably my fault for not making multiple game saves, but I got about 75% of the way through the story and it crashed and I lost all my data. So I'm kind of sour on it right now. I haven't picked it back up again yet, but hopefully I will. I did love it though. It was a great game.
I do hope you get back into it because that was actually one of my favorites. I played it on the Xbox 360 before it was the definitive edition. I went out and got it, played through it, and it looked beautiful even back then. I think the only upgrades they really did to the graphics on that game were just some like shading differences and lighting textures and stuff like that. Other than that, I mean, the world was beautifully designed. By far one of my favorite games to just kind of look around at stuff. It was just absolutely incredible. So we'll kind of move on from the 2015 next gen favorites. I would mention GTA, but that was kind of a remaster or a re-release remaster, and I don't want to talk for another 2 hours because I played that game 5 freaking times. We're going to move into kind of a game of the year discussion, even though there's not really much to discuss. We already wrote an article about it. If you haven't already checked that out, I'll link that to you in the article that this video is present in, which was 2015 Game of the Year, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I know that's by far one of my favorite games of all time. I I put in, I think, over 200 hours just to beat the game the first time. Haven't even touched a DLC, and I'm probably going to start a new game plus in the next couple of weeks. Thomas, we'll kind of start with you. I know we talked about it a lot, but what was one of your favorite things about the game? And this is a spoiler heavy discussion, so if you haven't played the game yet, you might want to look away. So, Thomas, go ahead and mention anything you want. No holding back. What do you think?
Okay. The Witcher, my second favorite game of all time. I really liked the decision making in it. You don't realize how heavily that plays a role in the game until you're pretty much all the way through. Like everything you do has a point and all that sort of stuff, which I really like. The character progression and how you kind of create him as far as your fighting style, I really enjoyed that too. I built pretty much all signs, so Igni and Yarden and all that sort of stuff. I don't think I put anything towards my swords or anything at all. But really cool. I knew people like my cousin. He didn't use signs one bit, so I really like how that gives you kind of your style of playing. So that was really cool. The Witcher gear was one of my favorite things too. I don't know if you guys did a whole too lot of that, but treasure hunts what it was, and you pretty much build the best armor in the game, which I thought was really fun. And you had to fight monsters and stuff to find the chest and all that sort of stuff. But you create the best armor there is. That was always really fun to do because you don't know where they are. You either have to buy the maps or just randomly come across them in the like 5,000 question marks that there are in that game. So that's fun. Another thing I was really surprised too when I was playing it, when you find Siri and you get the trophy, one thing I thought was funny is I think it showed like 33% of people find Siri, which is the whole point of the game. So that was pretty funny to me. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, decision making, character progression for me was really awesome. The monsters and kind of all the different styles there are and all the different ones you see. I like looking at the bestiary or whatever. Just kind of reading about them and all the thought that was put into that game was really cool too.
Oh, for sure. I completely agree. The bestiary is kind of one of the coolest aspects of the game to just kind of read through and see like what you faced up against throughout the entire game. I do want to mention your point about finding Siri. I think mostly that number is because once you open the game, uh, it automatically says that you've been playing it or whatever. So you're automatically eligible for all the trophies. So when it says that only 33% of people have found Siri, that means that only 33% of people have played through that far. So there's probably a lot of people that bought it and then maybe haven't played through all the way yet. They're taking a long time, taking their time with it, or they didn't like it and returned it basically. I don't think you I don't think there is a way that you can play the game where you can't find series. I guess what I'm saying. But I completely agree with you with what you're saying about the play style because, like you said, you put all of your stuff into signs. That's what I did as well. I did dabble a little bit into my swords with the attack stuff, but I didn't use any alchemy at all during the game. I used like 5 monster nest bombs and a couple of potions that I did in the very beginning, and then I didn't touch it for the next 200 hours. I'm finding now, though, that when I'm going into my New Game Plus, and I'm going to have to do a lot of prep work. So right now I'm finding all that Witcher gear, and I'm building all of these potions so that when I get into the next game, I'll have those available. Um, Colton, I know you started in on your New Game Plus, and you also played the DLC, which is something that Thomas and I haven't done yet. What were your overall thoughts on the game, and then maybe more specifically some thoughts on New Game Plus, and then the DLC that has been released?
Uh, well, first of all, it's probably my favorite game of all time. Just throwing that out there. I mean, I love open world games, and I'm a sucker for the fantasy RPG genre type thing. But I will say that you guys mentioned the bestiary. That's something that you will absolutely have to use if you play on Death March. Because for my new game plus, I'm doing Death March just to try to get that trophy because I want to get a platinum on The Witcher, which is going to be tough, very tough. I'm actually terrified just thinking about it. But you need to read that bestiary to know what all the monsters' weaknesses are and what kind of blade oils and potions and even bombs you need to use to actually best defeat them. But yeah, on my first playthrough, I didn't really touch any of that.
For
As
sure.
for go ahead.
Um, Sorry, I kind of lost what I was saying. Um, with that bestiary, kind of what you were talking about, I know that Death March is going to be very hard, and that's what I'm actually going to do my New Game Plus on. So I wanted to bring up really quickly, Thomas, Cole and I decided that we're going to race to get platinums, and this is going to be a brief sidebar, but uh, we decided that we're going to race to get the Witcher Platinum, which is insane. We're going to try to race to get, I believe it was Batman Arkham Knight, get that Platinum. And Colton, what was the other game real quick?
Fallout.
Fallout, yep. We're going to try to race to get the Fallout Platinum. So if you're in, that's kind of what we're doing, some mini competition.
We might do like best 2 out of 3, like the first person to get 2 wins, I guess. I don't know, something like that.
But I think if we include Thomas, we'll have to do like first, second, third.
True.
So that'll be weird. But Thomas, if you're into that, we'll do that. I'll send it back to you, Colton, real quick. It sounded like you have something more to say about The Witcher.
Yeah, just about the DLC. I did play, what was it called? Hearts of Stone. That's the only expansion that's been put out right now. I think for the main story, it took me about 10 hours. It was really good just to have another main storyline dragging out like that instead of just all the various side quests. And it was really engaging too. It was just really fun to play, and I've never really dabbled in DLC before, but having it for one of my favorite games of all time was just really good. And I've actually been looking up about Blood and Wine, which is the next DLC coming out. CD Projekt Red says that it's, quote, going to be better than the main game.
I honestly don't see how they can improve upon the game they currently have. That's just my opinion, but CD Projekt Red continues to just be the most amazing developer ever, and that's kind of what I want to bring up real quickly here. At release, they gave you a map, which kind of comes standard in most open world games like this, but then they also kind of give you a thank you note saying thanks for buying the game. We're humbled to present this to you. And then they also presented us with a soundtrack to the game, which I had never gotten that before. I opened it in my car and I was like, okay, this is awesome. And so I spent the rest of the day listening to that before I could go home and play it. I just thought that was the coolest move ever by CD Projekt Red. They're a bunch of great guys over there, and I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table over the next 10, 20 years. Thomas, send it back to you real quick. First of all, answer the question about if you want to race those platinums. It'll be kind of a fun thing we can write about. But also, what you look forward to seeing in the DLC. I know you haven't played Hearts of Stone yet, and then kind of what you look forward to seeing in Blood and Wine.
Okay, to answer the platinum question, yes, I actually just started Arkham Knight 2 nights ago, so I'm totally in for that. We'll see how that goes. And as for the DLC, if they're claiming it's going to be better than the game, my mind's pretty much blown at that point. No, it's going to be awesome. I don't really know what to expect. As I've watched the Hearts of Stone DLC, and it looked pretty good. I heard complaints that it's a little quick, but the new DLC, I have no idea what to expect. But if they're claiming that it's going to be better than the original game, we're all in for something.
And with those people who are saying it's a little quick, sure, it's not a 200-hour DLC like the original game is. So 10 hours compared to 200 is, that's nothing. So yeah, I can understand why people are saying it's quick, but also it's still at least 10 hours. So
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have this article about Blood and Wine up here. It says CD Projekt Red said previously that the 2 expansions combined would be almost the size of The Witcher 2. So I don't know if you played that at all, Tom, but I never did. I'm assuming that's pretty big. It says that Blood and Wine is expected to offer around 20 hours of gameplay, which is double what Hearts of Stone had. And that's got to be just main storyline, I would think. And they also put out new side quests and everything with it, too. So, yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I also, I'm really excited for what they have to offer. I think you mentioned it to me, Colten, the other day that Blood and Wine is going to kind of wrap up the story of Geralt a little bit because there isn't a whole lot of conclusion to the main storyline. I'm glad that they left it open, but after you beat the game, you can't really interact with any of the other characters that you kind of developed connections with throughout the game. So, Colten, what was that quote that they said about Geralt and his conclusion of the story in Blood and Wine?
See, that was a different article. I was actually looking for that one, but I couldn't find it. But you're right. I did mention that. They did say that I think, well, this is the last game of the trilogy. They're not going to make any more games in the Witcher universe right now. They're focusing on another game right now, which I think we'll get to in a second. But they said that they were going to leave it open for just coming back to this universe. They said Blood and Wine will be the end of Geralt's story, but they're not ruling out coming back to the Witcher universe, which gives me hope that maybe in the future we'll see a game centered around Ciri.
I hope so too. That would be honestly 1,000 times better than Witcher, if that's even possible. Just because Ciri is the most OP character in any game series of all time. She is insane to play with, and you can't really be defeated with her. So we'll kind of move on from Witcher, talk about some more games from 2015. We'll start with Colten this time. Colten, what was one big game from 2015 that in any other year that Witcher wasn't released, you would kind of consider your game of the year?
Man. That's a tough one, because as soon as The Witcher came out, that pretty much took up the rest of my year. Rocket League, that's kind of an out of left field thing for game of the year, but that was an out of left field game anyway. That was just, nobody expected that. that was just a huge hit.
Yeah, that was one of my big games. I wrote about that, I believe, for the site. I wrote a Platinum Diaries article because that was my first ever platinum. It's just a really fun multiplayer game. Awesome, easy mechanics, awesome physics, cheap DLC, and on top of it all, when I got it, it was free in the PlayStation Store. For anyone who doesn't already have it, we do recommend, I think all three of us, going out and buying it. It's like 15, 20 bucks. You're not going to be disappointed. There's so many hours of gameplay. It's all repetitive, but it doesn't feel repetitive. You're going to get your money's worth, basically. Thomas, I know you had to pay full price for it, which is kind of disappointing. Colton and I got it for free. But what do you think of Rocket League? I know that's one of our favorite games to play.
Yeah, it's super fun. I don't know how many hours we've put into it already, but as you said, it's definitely it doesn't feel repetitive, even though it is super fun to play with your pals. You know, if you've got 3 or 4 guys who just want to kind of have some fun, throw in Rocket League or download it and play it. Super great game. It's physics based, which is cool. And another thing I like about it is they have the modifier matches. They just recently, or pretty recently, put out the hockey based one, whatever that's called. I don't remember. Do you remember, Kyle?
That was Snow Day.
Snow Day, right. Put that out. They also have like cube matches where the ball's a cube and just all this fun stuff you can do to kind of make the game a little bit more interesting. So yeah, anybody out there who wants to just kind of play something and have some fun with some pals, definitely check out Rocket League. It was well worth the 20 bucks I paid. I'm really glad I did, and that was actually probably the first game I just outright paid for and downloaded digitally. Super happy I did. So yeah, check it out for sure.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to mention before I kind of swing it back to Colton on Rocket League. First thing about Rocket League is it's kind of boring if you play it as single player. You do want to play online or with some buddies because the repetitiveness if you're playing alone against bots kind of takes over. I also recommend if you're going for the platinum and it tells you to complete and win a season, don't play a 36-game season. There's a 9-game option. Don't play 36 games. You'll hate yourself for it, and that will be the hardest trophy you'll ever get, just because you'll be dying on the inside. But it's kind of swinging back to Thomas's point on downloading games. I usually don't, or I usually haven't in the past. This is kind of something that's really new to me. We all have PlayStation Plus though, and they release free games every month. But also they have really good deals if you're a Plus member. Last night I got Dragon Age Inquisition and Infamous Second Son for under $20. So if you don't have either of those games yet, I do recommend that you go onto the PlayStation Store. If you're not a Platinum or a Plus member, become a Plus member, and then download those 2 games because those are some pretty awesome games. And I paid less than a third of a single game when on release for 2 games, which is awesome. So I'll swing it back to you, Colton. Do you have anything else you wanted to add on Rocket League or downloadable games in general, since we're kind of talking about that now?
Hold up a second. When you say less than $20, you mean for both of them combined?
Yeah, I think I paid $23.99. So it was probably just over $20, but yeah, both of those combined were 24 bucks.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to pick up Dragon Age then. I played Second Son. It was cool, but I wasn't too into it. I might give it a shot again at that price though. But yeah, as far as Rocket League goes, that was the first game I'd ever downloaded. Actually, I downloaded Battlefield 4. That was a mistake, and I hate myself for it. But Rocket League was most definitely, I think, PlayStation's best free game of all time. And you really missed out, Thomas. I mean, I would definitely pay $40 for it, $60 probably, but free, wow, that was a hell of a deal. Yeah, the multiplayer aspect of it, though, is just so much fun. Kyle, I know you and I have spent hours just sitting in your basement, just match after match after match after match, and then even when we bring Thomas into it, our three-man team is pretty good.
Yeah, I think our three-man team is kind of unstoppable sometimes. I know we don't have the best win-loss, but that's kind of because we get a lead and then dick around. But that's our own fault. And also Thomas and I have been pretty drunk too. So
Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I do want to mention one more game, which was actually another game that I downloaded off the PlayStation Store, and it is only available via download. It's called Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Um, One of my favorite games of all time, I think. I haven't officially beat it yet, but it's an entirely story-based game. There's no button mashing combat. There's no combat at all. You're literally just walking around a town trying to find these beams of light. They're telling the story of what happened in the town. But what I love about it is it's just this beautiful British town. The music is outstanding. The voice acting is just incredible, and it has one of the best stories of any games I've ever played. If you're looking for a game that relies heavily on gameplay, you're not going to find it with Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. But I did want to mention that just because it was the best $15 I've ever spent on the PlayStation Store for a full price game. I'm not going to count Dragon Age into that category. Colton brought up Battlefield, which reminded me of first-person shooters, which reminded me of one of my biggest disappointments of 2015, um, which I'm not going to say right away because I wanted someone else to go first. Save that mine for last. So we're going to talk about our biggest disappointments. No one likes talking about games that failed, but unfortunately, games do fail. Thomas, we'll start with you because we neither of us played this game, and if either of us wanted to play this game, we probably wouldn't be able to right now because we'd be sitting in an endless queue on matchmaking. And your biggest disappointment was Evolve. So tell us about Evolve, kind of its gameplay mechanics, and why it failed so quickly.
Okay, kind of a backstory on Evolve. When I found out about it, at first I thought it looked really, really awesome. There was a lot of hype for it. Me and my brother got pretty into it, and I went and picked it up and threw it in. Probably the biggest reason it failed is because it was just ungodly repetitive. Like, just it was terrible. Um, Supposedly, if you played Hunters with your friends, it was a little bit better, but I pretty much only played Monster. And for those of you who don't know, it's 4v1, so there's four Hunters, or yeah, hunting one monster, only online. But I played Monster, and the whole game is just based around you eat stuff, you evolve, and get a better form, and you upgrade your abilities, and then you just try to kill the other people. It's terribly repetitive. The mechanics of the game are pretty poor. There was like maybe 6 buttons you use for the whole match if you're a monster. So really repetitive. Each monster has 4 abilities, and I think it's L1, L2, R1, R2, I think is what it was. I don't remember. It's been so long since I played. Um, but that's pretty much all it was. When it got released, there were 3 monsters out. The Goliath, which was your starter monster, the Kraken, and then the Wraith. I played until I got the Wraith unlocked, and it was crazy OP. I'd play 20-minute matches where nobody would even find me. I would evolve to stage 3, hit my supernova ability, and kill everybody. It was just OP. They didn't kind of think everything through, I guess. And the repetitive side, yeah, it was just not good. The servers were also pretty bad too. There was a lot of times where I would just get kicked out and have to rejoin and all that sort of stuff. So pretty buggy. In my opinion, they didn't kind of balance out the abilities and the characters a whole too lot. They kind of just threw stuff together. So that's, yeah, one of my biggest disappointments. Played it for about a week, and most people stuck with it probably for 2 weeks. And as Kyle mentioned, there's probably just an endless wait in the queue now because nobody plays it. So big letdown, had a huge hype, and unfortunately it just fell through.
I honestly really wouldn't be surprised if they've disabled the servers by now because people haven't been touching it. And I wanted to bring up your game first because Evolve was a big disappointment, sure, but Evolve also sold at $60. You got to be kidding me, corporations. You can't sell a game like that. It's just 4v1 all the time. That's not a $60 game. Rocket League was free, and then when Rocket League isn't free, it's $20. That $20 game is so much better, has so much better playthrough than your $60 game that, like Thomas said, he got sick of after a week. And Thomas, I don't know how often you play Rocket League, but I play Rocket League probably every week. So I'm just blown away at what some corporations think that they can sell for $60. And then of course it had all of the, oh, if you pay $120, you get this monster, and if you buy it at Best Buy, you get this skin for your monster, and it's just ridiculous. And I'm gonna rant about this a lot throughout the podcast, maybe not as extensive as I am now, but it's really just tearing the gaming community apart. Um, Before I start crying, though, Colton, did you have a big disappointment from 2015? I know, like you said, as soon as Witcher came out, that it consumed you. But did you have any games that you were really disappointed with?
Truthfully, I really didn't. I didn't play Evolve. Well, actually, I did have one, but I know that's the one that you're going for, so I don't really want to get too deep into that right now. I'll save that for you, and then we can all jump in on that, because I think we all agree. But uh, the Order 1886, I heard that was a big disappointment. I also heard it was one of the best looking games ever. I can't vouch for that. I never paid for it. I never bought it. But apparently it was a really, really short play, like 6 hours or so. I don't know. That might be true. Did you play that one, Tom?
I did not, but I did hear the same thing. Super short, mechanics were great. I think there were not even load screens between stuff. Like it was just all one flow, which was cool. But yeah, I heard it was a pretty big letdown.
Yeah, what I mostly heard about it is it was a lot of random press this button, and then it was like a 15-minute cutscene, and then it was press triangle, and then a 10-minute cutscene. I heard that, it's a 6-hour gameplay, and 2 hours of it was cutscenes, so there wasn't a whole lot of action going on. Also, Colton, you kind of said it was you heard it was 6 hours. You heard it from me,
Yeah.
but
There you go.
I was talking about it was a 6-hour platinum. That's how long it takes.
Well, hey, that's even worse.
So it's around a 6 to 8 hour platinum. So if you're looking for an easy platinum, Thomas, especially, go out and buy it if you can get it for like $10. Get that easy platinum and then never touch it again, because there's not really any replay value. But you get to look at a lot of pretty things, whatever. I'm going to kind of quote Angry Joe here, which if you don't watch him, you should watch him. He has a lot of good reviews of games, so shout out to Angry Joe. That's number 2 for shout outs. But he said that the Order seemed like it was a year and a half too late, so that it was supposed to be a launch day game to kind of show off the mechanics of the PS4 and how beautiful things can look, and then it just came out in 2015. Just out of nowhere, really. It came out in 2015 when it should have came out in 2013. So that's kind of my take on the Order. I am going to bring up the biggest disappointment, in my opinion, of 2015, because all the hype, just with everything that's been surrounding it lately. We're going to talk about Star Wars Battlefront now, and I'm going to try to restrain myself from just cussing dice out. Thomas, I'll send it to you. What were some of the things that made Star Wars Battlefront not necessarily fail, but why didn't it live up to the hype?
For me, probably because I played the old Battlefronts. I played the original and then number 2. When I was younger, I really enjoyed the hero aspect. I loved playing as Yoda and Darth Maul and all those sort of people. And when you get into the game, there's 3 heroes and 3 villains. And the game modes you play with them, like heroes versus villains, if you get someone who knows how to play the characters, it's terrible. Like the Emperor is just so OP'd, it's crazy. But that was probably one of my biggest. I was hoping they'd put more characters into it, and I get it. They want to have DLC and this and that being released. But at the launch, yeah, I was super stoked for it. I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, but I do enjoy it. But yeah, the heroes thing is kind of a letdown for me. Also, probably how they do the matches. How you pick them. It's kind of cool, but I was hoping it'd be a little bit more like the original, which, again, I understand they don't want to just re-release an old game, but they changed it to the point where I think it didn't even really feel like Battlefront. It felt more like Battlefield with Star Wars characters, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what did it for me.
All right. Before I go on my rant, Colton, what do you have to say about it?
Uh, yeah, I never played the original Battlefronts. I think the only Star Wars game I ever played was The Phantom Menace for PlayStation 1. I think I played that at your house a long, long time ago, Kyle.
Yeah, we played that, and then I think I actually do have one of the original Battlefronts, and then the Star Wars racing game. So
Yeah. What really killed Battlefront for me was the fact that there was no story mode, there was no campaign. I mean, you can play multiplayer all day, which is what they intended it to be, I guess. Which is, I, I don't know who it was. I think it had to be one of the developers from Dice. Put out this really, really short-sighted quote saying that he didn't think that the people that played the game would play it for the story. They just played it for the multiplayer aspect of it, because that's what people who play Battlefield play it for, I guess. I don't know. I don't like Battlefield, but yeah, the story would have made it a lot better. It's a Star Wars game. There's a whole lot they could have done with the story there, especially when you look at the 10-second cutscenes that they have, like right as you get dropped into a match. They're so cool. They could have they could have easily made a story out of that, and it would have looked amazing. It would have been amazing.
I 100% agree with you there. I'm going to start out my rant mentioning the positives before I just start breaking down here. The incorporation of John Williams music was incredible. Playing the game and during the matches, just hearing John Williams come out of nowhere felt amazing, especially because it came out before The Force Awakens. So um, I was really happy to hear the John Williams music, and it is a really beautiful game. Um, Even with it just being Battlefield in a Star Wars skin, they did the Star Wars skin really well. The detail they put into the levels is pretty cool. But I am going to start my rant now. Um, they they kind of messed up in the fact that they released this game that relied so heavily on its multiplayer aspects, and then they give you 4 maps to play on. So you get these 4 maps, and you're playing this, these awesome battles against, some of your friends. Maybe you're on there, but usually you're against like 20 other people. These huge battles, and there's ats everywhere, and things are flying around, and explosions are happening. But then there's just a huge disconnect. It's literally just Battlefield and a Star Wars skin, and it. I've mentioned this metaphor to Colton before. I don't know if Thomas has heard this, but with games, I kind of treat it like you are buying a hamburger. So when you buy a hamburger, you get a hamburger. So when you buy a game, you get a hamburger, and then with a game, the games have DLC. Hamburger kind of also has DLC. It has a shake, that could be a DLC. It has fries, that could be DLC. And that's how games used to be. Games now kind of tend to be you get a patty, you get a hamburger patty, and then the DLC is the bun. And then if you buy it from GameStop, you get some lettuce. And if you buy it from Best Buy, you get a tomato. If you buy it from Walmart, I don't know what you get. You get the horrible experience from buying games from Walmart. Um, but I don't even feel like Battlefront was a hamburger patty at all. I feel like it was just French fries. And with the DLC, they say they want to release some sort of campaign with it. I feel like they're going to try to release it, and it's just going to be half of a hamburger patty or something. I'm sorry for this extended metaphor, but it's really true that it just doesn't feel like a full game. It feels like they robbed us of $60 basically. Because I know I would sooner pay $60 for Rocket League than I would for Battlefront. And hindsight is 2020, but that's why I really regret buying the game. I'm not going to trade it in because that's not how I roll. But um, if I play it, I'm just going to be pissed off the whole time. Um, So we'll kind of transition from our talk about Battlefront into another moderately depressing discussion about first-person shooters, because I know we all kind of like them. Like, obviously, we're more into the open world fantasy RPG games, but there are a lot of first-person shooter games that are RPG and open world. So I'll start with Thomas this time. Thomas, what do you want to see from first-person shooter games in the future, and how we can kind of get out of this funk that Battlefield and Call of Duty and Halo have put us in with the first-person shooter mechanics?
Well, I would probably like to see stuff go more the route of the new Tom Clancy game. That I haven't liked the first-person shooter in a while. I mean, I played a lot of Battlefield, which was okay, um, but I picked up that game, and that one's actually done really well. It's really fun, and probably the biggest grind that I have with first-person shooters is that they're all, at least it seems to me anyway, just run and gun style games. You just run around fast and shoot. Um, the new Tom Clancy game is not like that at all. I mean, you can play like that, but you're going to suck and you're going to get killed. I like how it's tactical and stuff, and I feel like all the games for I don't know how long they're just like that. It's just a repeat of the same game. Just you can customize your weapons a little bit, maybe customize your character, sprint, and shoot stuff. And like probably if we're talking about first-person shooters, the biggest one I probably don't like is Call of Duty. I just feel like they regurgitate the same game and just put a different cover on the case and let you customize the characters a little bit differently. But yeah, first-person shooters, in my opinion, most of them have just gone to a run and gun style, and it's just so repetitive for me. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so we don't all just say the same thing, I want to focus on specifically the Call of Duty franchise for a second and just kind of take a look at the last three games that they've released, which I believe is Ghost, Black Ops 2, and Advanced Warfare. Or no, Black Ops 3, which just came out. So Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3. What I remember about Ghost or whatever that one was it was supposed to be this big new thing, and then it was horrible. I got Advanced Warfare because one of my buddies wanted to play zombies, and then the zombies were just weird and completely disconnected from the rest of the game. And also, I like playing campaigns, and so I was really disappointed with the 5-hour campaign that I was given, and just the endless multiplayer online stupid shit, basically. Um, so Colton, I guess I'll swing this to you. What do you want to see from Call of Duty or Battlefield or Halo? Not necessarily Halo because we're all PS4 nerds, but what do you want to see from those two games in the future? How they could turn things around and make us gamers feel like we can buy their games again.
Man, I'm not sure. I've never really been a huge first-person shooter fan anyway. I think the last one I bought was Ghosts. I bought Call of Duty Ghosts. Other than Battlefield 4, I don't count that. That was kind of a mistake. But most of my Call of Duty time comes at your house, Kyle. I mean, we would just play like local multiplayer, and that's fun. I honestly have more fun doing that than online multiplayer, just because I'm really not good. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not hugely into them, so I don't really know that I can say what I want them to do better. Maybe, maybe like you said, just make a better campaign. Maybe make some tweaks so it's not just throwing out the same shit every single year. It basically feels like a sports game. Like you just have updated rosters every single year, and then maybe make some graphical updates, maybe some gameplay updates to make it a little bit smoother. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to them.
I
But
completely
I will say though that I would have been ecstatic, maybe not ecstatic, but I would have been much happier with a 5-hour campaign for Battlefront. Like
Yeah,
if they
that's
would have
true.
just had that, I would have been okay with that.
That's
But
true. Like
yeah, I don't want to get back into that.
I say I don't want the campaign for Call of Duty, or I want it to be longer, but I guess I can't complain since they actually gave us a freaking campaign instead of just releasing a multiplayer game. I do want to bring up a point that Thomas made in his section about just shifting to more of a tactical style in those games, because it does seem like in especially Call of Duty, if you're running around, you're basically invincible. You run up to someone, someone starts shooting at you, and you're like, oh, that dude's shooting at me. So you turn around and you pop them in the head, and then they're dead. It just kind of doesn't seem like a realistic wartime game. Thomas, tell us more about The Division, because I want to hear you kind of promo this. I know you're writing an article about this, so if you want to avoid some topics that you mentioned in your article, feel free. But just kind of tell us why The Division could save first-person shooters in this style.
Are you talking the Tom Clancy game?
It's Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I brought up.
No, it's cool. That game looks really awesome too. That also looks more of like an RPG tactical shooter. Haven't played it because it's not out, but that looks good too. But yeah, more about Siege. Yeah, a lot of people seem to be liking that just because it's again, it's not your run and gun style. I enjoy it because it's just more tactical. It's all team based, which is cool. In Call of Duty and Battlefields and all that, sure, they have team deathmatch and stuff where you're supposed to work with your team to win overall. But there's not really a whole lot of team play. It's just our team has more kills than yours. Haha, we win. With the Rainbow Six Siege game, each character pretty much has their own unique ability, and you have to utilize that for your team to win, essentially, if you play like ranked and really good stuff. I like that. I like that it's 100% tactical based, and you can't just run in there and I have the biggest gun, I win. It's a lot harder than that. I've been getting into ranked a little bit. I think I'm like Silver 2 now, and the matches are really hard. They take a long time, for what the time period that you're given. And yeah, it's just there's a lot more thought put into that game, which is nice.
Yeah, sorry for my little boo-boo there. I mentioned a game that hasn't come out yet, but I know we're all pretty excited about that, and that'll be one of the games we talk about later. I'm going to shift away from the first-person shooter discussion just because we could kind of go all night with this, just bashing on first-person shooters. I'm going to go to one of the questions we got, and when I say questions, I mean question. Sent out a tweet today asking for questions. Probably should have done this a couple days ago, and then so I messed up. But Ty from Hawaii sent us a question. Shout out to Ty. That is number 3 in terms of shout outs. And he asked, is there any summer movie recommendations that you guys have? We'll start with Colten.
I'm looking forward to Suicide Squad, which kind of goes against the grain of what I really want to talk about overall, because I'm not into the whole Marvel thing or the superhero thing, but I think Suicide Squad looks like it'll be kind of good. Jared Leto as a Joker, I think there was kind of some controversy about that, just because Heath Ledger did such a good job, and then, well, maybe nobody can play it as well as Heath Ledger did. I don't know, but they're different. They're different Jokers. Everybody's played it differently. Also, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. That's interesting. Harley Quinn's a personal favorite of mine, so I'm interested to see how that goes. But other than that, yeah, let's see. Finding Dory. How about that? Really stoked on that.
Totally one of the best movies of all time. I'm assuming. I don't know for sure. Obviously,
well, it's a sequel to Finding Nemo.
Right. Next, it's going to be Finding. What's the name of that? Shark Bait. Finding Shark Bait, or whatever.
I think that was Nemo.
Oh. Okay.
Because he gets put in the fish tank and then it's off and like Shark Bait.
Or Finding. Well, what's the name of? Well, I guess neither of you would know. There's like these 3 sharks or whatever, and they're
Bruce.
Bruce. Yeah, Finding Bruce. That's next. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I know we're not the biggest movie guys. Obviously, we know a little bit about movies. We've written about movies for the site. I'm really excited for the second Conjuring, but really I'm not looking forward to any in the summer. I'm looking forward to the sequel to Cloverfield, which is coming out March 11th, I believe, or something like that, sometime in March. Um, I'm also really looking forward because I haven't seen some of the movies that have recently come out. I'm really looking forward to going to see The Hateful Eight and The Revenant. So, Ty, if you're watching this, go watch those movies because they're already out. You can take your girlfriend, get some popcorn, get some pop, sit down, watch some movies. You know how it works, whatever. Thomas, do you have any from the summer that you're looking forward to?
Um, all the Disney ones I'm kind of excited for. I don't know if it's like confirmed or whatever, but I know the Finding Nemo one is. I think there's another Incredibles coming out. I don't really remember the others. The Incredibles one I'm kind of stoked for. That was one of my favorites as a kid. Well, not as a kid, or whatever age I was, I don't know. But I'm pretty excited for that. Also, I don't know when the Deadpool movie's coming out, but I'm kind of excited for that too. Deadpool's a pretty cool character, has really good comics and all that sort of stuff. So I'm stoked to kind of see how that plays in the movie world and kind of where they go with that. Um, yeah, those are probably my big two that I'm kind of excited for.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Deadpool, but Deadpool does come out on Valentine's Day this year. So unfortunately, not a summer movie, but go take your girlfriends or whatever, because that's a movie you want to take your girlfriend to is Deadpool. Um, I'll swing it back to Colton on the subject that you kind of mentioned when you were talking about your movie recommendations earlier. But there's just been an influx of Marvel and DC and superhero movies lately. Um, Specifically, Marvel seems to be doing a lot of stuff. But Colton, why are they so big? And is it affecting the movie industry at all?
First of all, I found two more that I wanna give a go for Ty. I don't know if he's interested. One of them comes out next week, and Kyle and I were gonna go to the midnight showing. He just doesn't know it yet. It's the Fifth Wave. Um, Ty, I don't know if this is really going to be your thing. I don't know you personally that well, but I have kind of an unhealthy, I don't want to call it an obsession, but Chloe Grace Moretz is kind of a thing with me, and she's a star of this movie, and yeah, it's about aliens, I guess. Seems kind of neat. Also, another one is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I think that's later on in 2016, but that's venturing back into the Harry Potter universe. Yeah, it's November 18th. But still, I'm pretty excited about that. And then there's also another Star Wars like kind of spin-off later on in 2016. But yeah, back to the superhero thing. You just Google 2016 movies, and Google brings up a list of movies and everything, and most of them are Marvel or superhero related, and it's just kind of strange to see how all these are just popping up. It's like the Avengers got big and they just ran with it. They took every superhero thing they could find and just made whether it's an origin story or just any story that they can find with it. Some of them are good, you know. I don't know. I haven't seen all of them, obviously, but I'm not too thrilled about it. I don't think it's necessarily ruining films because there's still a lot of good films coming out, but they do tend to take up a lot of the money that goes in just because they're big draws, I guess. And it's kind of sad to see that the other films that are deserving to actually make this money, they might not hit their production budget, you know, because all these bigger superhero films are taking all the money away.
Right, I agree with you on that point. There are still a lot of fantastic films out there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the Oscars and the Golden Globes and all of that. But I feel like it does hurt them in the way that they aren't getting the recognition that they deserve. Because, as you've probably noticed, of all the superhero films that have come out in the past 4 or 5 years, whatever, I don't think hardly anyone has been nominated for anything from those movies. It's usually production, not really actors or actresses or um, director or anything like that. It's usually like best sound design or best special effects and stuff like that. Um, So it's kind of disappointing to see that all of these movies are getting these really, they're high up in the box office, but then they don't get any awards. Kind of shows where we're progressing as a society, I guess. We want to see the most action and death and destruction and the heroes saving the day when that's not really what life is. Life is a little more subtle, like some of the movies that are out that are winning these awards, and some of the movies that are based off of true stories, like The Revenant, um, and Selma last year, but that was a huge one, so that doesn't really count. Thomas, I'll swing it back to you on the DC Marvel movie things. This will be the last bit about movies. Uh, what are your opinions on those movies and the influx we've had of them lately?
I think they're a bit overdone. Don't get me wrong, I like superheroes and stuff. I always have, but the Avengers, I've seen them all, and I think, in my opinion, they just have gotten kind of progressively worse. They leave it open, so there has to be another Avengers and all that sort of thing. Yeah, the superhero movies, I'm kind of getting sick of, to be honest. I just feel like, like the first Iron Man I really liked. I thought that was a really good movie and all that sort of stuff. And they've just kind of been, everybody has been moving towards this whole Avengers, and now the Justice League's going to start up and all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. I'm just kind of sick of the whole way it's going. I just think superhero movies today are just so overdone, and they're put out too much, and that sort of thing. So that's kind of my take on it.
All right, one last thing that I want to bring up before we move on to our next section. It's not just movies either. If you turn on your TV, you're going to see advertisements for Arrow and Flash and Supergirl. And if you turn on Netflix, you're going to see Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and then there's other ones that are coming out sometime soon. So it's kind of taking over all media, and it's a little insane. Obviously, there are some diamonds in the rough, but there's a lot of rough to get through. And no one's bashing on superheroes here. I think we all, um, love superheroes, but it's getting to be a little much. I don't like going out and spending $10 to go see a movie that, well, I can just go see the next one in 3 months. So moving on from that, we're gonna go to games again. Go back to the games. What are some games that you guys are looking forward to that are coming out in either 2016, 2017, or don't have a release date yet? I'll start with you, Thomas. What are you looking forward to?
Oh, I know we touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to bring back or bring up the Division again. I'm super stoked for that. It's been pushed back I don't know how many times, but I'm pretty stoked for that. Again, it looks kind of like an RPG, third-person style shooter, like post-apocalyptic, whatever. There's like a disease, and now the city's quarantined and all that sort of stuff. But from the videos I've seen of it, the engine they use looks really awesome. Looks super realistic. Everything looks really well done. I'm super stoked for that. But probably my biggest one is the new Kingdom Hearts. I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts nerd. So I've been waiting for that game for like, what is it, 8 years or 9 years, whatever they are on now. I don't know. It's been so long, I've just lost hope. But they're bringing that out, so I am crazy excited for that. I said again, I've been waiting to play Kingdom Hearts 3 since I beat Kingdom Hearts 2 on my PlayStation 3 or 2, whatever one that was.
It was
2,
2.
yeah.
They did the remaster for 3.
Right, that's right. Yep. So yeah, I've that's the one I'm most excited for. Kingdom Hearts all the way.
Yeah, I do want to mention the Division before I talk a little bit about Kingdom Hearts, but it seems like with the Division, that's going to be a game that the three of us should get into, just because it seems like it relies on a party system more so than anything else. You can't just kind of solo walk through the city. You got to have buds by your side, because there's going to be groups of other players roaming around, and if you're going in to loot something, you can steal their loot, kill them, or you can group up with them. It's an insane concept, and I hope it's a great game. Um, but it looks really interesting, and I think we should all take a stab on it on opening day whenever that comes out. I think it's sometime in March. February and March is going to be an insane couple of months. I want to bring up one game Oh, I want to talk about Kingdom Hearts first. That's gonna be awesome. That's all I can really say. Like, I'm gonna nerd out so much when that comes out, and hopefully, Disney puts in the recently acquired film franchise that they just put out a movie for into Kingdom Hearts. Be awesome to see Star Wars stuff in that. I don't know if you really thought about that, Thomas, but they have Disney rights, so it could very well be in that game and see Princess Leia and whatever. Um, but I want to bring up a game that Colton you can talk about, and then you can talk about one of your other favorites, but Far Cry Primal. I know we all had a bunch of fun playing Far Cry 4. It is kind of shifting to completely away from a first-person shooter into a first-person. You're in the Stone Age and you're hunting all these beasts and stuff. Colton, tell us a little tell us a little bit about Far Cry Primal and why you're looking forward to it, and then any other games you're looking forward to.
Well, the abbreviation for first-person shooter is obviously FPS. So you could probably still use FPS and just be first-person spear. But yeah, that was a lame joke. I'm sorry. But it is the Stone Age. It's primal. It seems really cool. There's really, I think it's like you're opposing tribes. There's not going to be. God, I don't really know. I don't think there's going to be one main antagonist. But there's a lot of like prehistoric animals walking around, like mammoths and everything, and you can hunt them. Um, it doesn't look a whole lot different from Far Cry 4 as far as the way that it's set up goes, the gameplay of it. There's still outposts everywhere, which it's going to be a little bit different because they're probably not going to be these gigantic fortresses. But the look of it is still the same as Far Cry 4 was. It doesn't look a whole lot different, which makes sense because it's coming out so soon after Far Cry 4. That part kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to come out that soon.
Yeah,
Um,
right, completely. I completely agree. When it was announced, I was like, really? Are we going to turn this into an Assassin's Creed type franchise, release the same garbage every year? Which, as you noticed, since we didn't mention Assassin's Creed, we're not the biggest fans. But yeah, back to you, Colton. Go ahead.
yeah, there's really not a whole lot more I can say about Primal. Um, one that I really am looking forward to is Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't know. I know Kyle and I have talked about it. Tom, I don't know if you've seen much about it, but it's basically like a post apocalyptic world. Um, so the so the world is kind of like rebuilt in a way that I think there's only one gameplay trailer that's been put out, and you play this girl. I don't know her name, but she's like hunting these gigantic robotic dinosaurs, and I think that looks cool as hell.
For sure, for sure. That's about really all you can say about that.
Yeah.
There's an 8-minute gameplay trailer for it. Looks really cool. Um, I'm interested to see how it works. I wrote down a couple here. Um, Cyberpunk 2077. Um, this is this is one that flew under my radar. Didn't hear about it at all, and then I realized that it is being produced by CD Projekt Red, who we mentioned earlier is the production company that put out The Witcher. Um, and I did a little bit of research on it today. There's no gameplay trailers available yet. There's one little, like, hey, here's a girl, she's being shot at, but the bullet like ricochets off her cheek, and that's what it is. That's what we know about Cyberpunk so far. But one of the developers on CG Project Red said that it's going to be the biggest game they've ever released by far, which for people who have listened to the entire thing so far, they did The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which is a game that we combined have probably put in 750 hours into. How in the hell can this game be bigger and better than that game? And that's why it has just skyrocketed into the game that I'm looking forward to the most, because they're saying it's better than my favorite game of all time, which I literally I cannot wait for when that comes out. I'm hearing it'll be late 2016, but it could sneak into 2017, so I have a bit of a wait to go, but I hope I don't have to wait too long. Another game, and I'll swing it to you, one of you guys on this, is No Man's Sky. Um, I've I've probably watched about an hour or two of just gameplay footage and behind the tech stuff for this game because I literally cannot believe that it even exists. For those of you who don't know, No Man's Sky is a game. It's a procedurally generated game where your only objective is to get to the center of the universe. Sounds easy enough, right? Until you realize that there are 1 quintillion planets that you can visit in the game. Quintillion. And they're all full-fledged planets. Like you can travel around the entire planet in day-night cycle. It's not like, oh, you can only access this part of this. No, everything is accessible. You can trade with people. You can fight in these battles. You can collect all these materials. There's just so much stuff to do. Thomas, how pumped are you for this game?
I'm pretty excited. When I heard about the concept, I was like, wow, that's crazy. I really don't know a whole too lot about it other than it's freaking huge. That's about the only thing I know. But my brother talked to me about it a little bit. And yeah, just hearing how it is and how much stuff there is to do and how much space there is available on that game is nuts. So I'm pretty excited to see kind of how that plays out because I can't really recall a game that's done that. So, it's just going to be pretty interesting being as big as it is.
Yeah, you can't recall because it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing behind Far Cry or not Far Cry, No Man's Sky, that makes it so awesome is it's procedurally generated. So you don't have the entire universe on your hard drive because that'd be impossible. It's just a system of numbers that it runs through this. I'm no tech guy, but it runs through a code, and then the code spits out what it needs to appear on your screen at what places. So it's not going to be a giant install. So some of these games that came out, like Witcher, is like a 45 to 50 gig install. This game could be a whole of a lot less than that, even though there's so much more to do. Colten, what are you looking forward to, I guess, most about this game? And then, do you think it'll work?
That is the big question that remains to be seen. It seems really ambitious to me. I hope it works. What I'm looking forward to is just the exploring aspect of it. That's one of my big things about open world games is just being able to get lost in the world. And with 1 quintillion planets or whatever, if that's even a real number that you've heard, I don't know. But I mean, I know quintillion's a real number, but I don't know if that's been stated. But
According to the Wikipedia page, which I know that probably isn't the best source, but it says that the universe size is going to be approximately 1 quintillion planets.
wow.
Which, for those of you who don't know, that's 1 times 10 to the 19th power.
Okay, you've done your homework. Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of stuff to get lost in. I don't think you have to necessarily fight in all these battles. I remember seeing something about there being a Grand Theft Auto style, kind of like a wanted level type thing. Like if you kill something that you shouldn't kill or whatever, then you're gonna have some people on your tail trying to make you atone for that, basically. So I don't know. It just seems like a really cool idea. Um, I don't. I'd be really interested to see if anybody ever finds the center of that universe, because I highly doubt that I'll be the one.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they say that if you don't do any side quests or anything else other than hopping from planet to planet to planet until you get to the center, it'll take 60 hours. And that's doing nothing. It's literally going to a planet, maybe looking around for 15 minutes or so, and then moving on to the next universe or next galaxy or whatever. But yeah, it's it's astronomical, and that is a horrible pun, but it's what it is. It's the biggest thing we've ever seen. Um, there are so many games we're all looking forward to. I know that those are kind of the top ones that we have. Um, go to you, Colton. Did you have any other ones you were looking forward to a lot?
Off the top of my head, those are probably the main ones. I'm not even really looking that forward to the division, but just because it's been pushed back so many times, it sounds cool. But and I will give it a shot now that you mention it. You know, it does sound like something that we would probably have fun going at together.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think it's going to be a great game for us because we can all play it together. We can have fun and kind of make fun of each other if one of us fucks up. But yeah, Thomas, do you have any other ones you're looking forward to a lot?
The only other one I'm excited for, and I've heard rumors about, I don't know if anything's confirmed or whatever, but the new Mass Effect that's going to come out. I'm a big Mass Effect guy. I played them all. It's kind of a spoiler alert here. If you haven't played them, I'm interested to see where they go because Commander Shepard, if I remember right, I think he dies. So they're going to have to start with a new character or one of the endings that happened in Mass Effect 3 or whatever they decide to do. But I'm excited for that. I'm just hoping it's not an Xbox exclusive or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked for that if I'm available to play it. Yeah, that's probably the only other one I can think of right now off the top of my head.
I did hear rumors from Mass Effect saying that it's going to be set 100 years after Mass Effect 3. So that would kind of explain. It's definitely going to be a new character, one that you haven't seen before, and it's going to be set in the events 100 years after the ending. And I know nothing about the Mass Effect series, but I know that's what they're aiming for, I believe. I'm going to bring up one more game, and then we're going to close it out.
I did think of another one.
Oh, go ahead, by all means.
I've never played a Final Fantasy game before in my life, but Final Fantasy, I think it's 15. I saw a gameplay trailer for it, and it looks pretty good. Like I said, I've never played a Final Fantasy game, but I think that's scheduled to come out this year. I hope. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna pick it up and give it a shot.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I love about next gen is for especially me and Colton, we haven't been gaming for that long. Um, I didn't get a PS3 until early 2013, um, and that was my first gaming console since like PS2 and Sega and stuff like that. So I'm fairly new to all this, and I like seeing all these old games come out, these old franchises come out with new games, because then I'm able to experience what people played back in those early days of PS3, PS2, whatever, and then maybe go back and buy a PS3 and play these older games and see what they're all about. Two games I did want to mention. One along the lines of what I just mentioned with the series, Dark Souls 3. We had Bloodborne in 2015, but we haven't had a Dark Souls game in a while. I don't know how long, but that'll be the first Dark Souls game that I play. I will definitely be getting that, and it just looks amazing. And the last game I want to mention, just because it looks beautiful, and it is supposedly an endless world type game as well, is Wild. Um, it's going to be a game that doesn't have a HUD like you would normally have on a game, but you basically explore and you can take over the minds of animals and fly like an eagle and fight with a bear and run around as a rabbit, and you can apparently circle the entire globe, and it just looks insane. That's going to be a big game though, because I know it's not procedurally generated like No Man's Sky, but it looks pretty cool, and unfortunately we don't know much about it right now, but hopefully we learn more. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thomas, do you have anything else you want to say before we close things out?
No, I don't. I think we pretty much touched on some good topics. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this. I had a fun time. It's really cool to do one of these. But yeah, I think we had a pretty good discussion. I'm good on my end.
All right. How about you, Colton?
Yeah, same here. I kind of enjoyed this. I was kind of apprehensive about it at first, but hey, it was a fun time. About that wild thing though, real quick, Kyle, do you know if that's set on a random planet or is it Earth or do you know anything about that?
I think it is a random planet. It might be
Okay.
Earth.
All right. Yeah, that's just one thing I was
They,
curious about.
I haven't heard anything about that. I've watched as much as I can about it, but yeah, I
Right.
haven't heard much.
No.
But if you guys are good to close out, I guess I'll close us out. If you enjoyed watching, be sure to subscribe to my channel, I guess, since we're going to go through my channel for these. And if for some reason you didn't see this on our website, go to our website at laconicmnemonic.com. That's LaConicMnemonic.com. I know that can be a bit confusing, and I'll put a link in the description. But I had a lot of fun. I hope we can do this a little more often. Maybe do, if we all buy a certain game, do a game review on a podcast rather than an article. Just kind of explore, because we're a fairly new site. So, like I said, if you liked it, like us, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. All of us have Twitter accounts. Link that in the description as well. And thanks for joining. We'll see you guys later.